Welcome inside the vault. It's post-game on the 26th of October, week 8 now in the rear view. And for the first time since mid-September, Sarah, we have a win to discuss. That's right. The Ravens found a way with their backs against the wall and Tyler Huntley under center to beat the Bears 30-16 at the bank. A short week now commences. The Miami Dolphins loom on Thursday Night Football. Sarah, they improved to 2-5. There remains a glimmer of hope. 2 of the 3 AFC North teams that played so far at the time of this live stream have lost. The other, of course, is Pittsburgh. It's Packers, it's Steelers on Sunday Night Football. And wow, oh, wow, we got a lot to discuss. Tyler Huntley comes in a pinch, and we'll get into why it was a pinch throughout the course of tonight's live stream. But welcome in. The super chats are flowing. I'm Bobby Trossett. This is Sarah Ellison. Tonight's live stream is brought to you by our friends at Manta Sleep. And Sarah, Snoop wearing the number 5. Wearing the number 5. It's done for the Ravens, and they absolutely had to have it.
Ooh, there has got to be a collective sigh of relief in Baltimore. And let's make it clear, Bobby, there's still an uphill climb to go. But we said it all week. This was going to be the Ravens Super Bowl of the season. And they came out, and it was a little scary at first, that first quarter, when the Bears had a 12-minute to 2-minute time of possession lead. And it's just like, holy cow, is this defense going to get gassed out? Ravens offense went 3 and out on the first drive. But suddenly in that second quarter, everything changed. And I just have to give so many props to Tyler Huntley. And there's props that need to go around to so many people. But there were so many that was like, man, if Lamar's not out there, no way the Ravens are winning this. I think Tyler Huntley is now 2-0 against the Bears, at least as a Raven he is. And the way he just played mistake-free football. And also, Bobby, we said this so many times that there are other teams that are winning without their starting quarterbacks, and they at least look competitive. So it's not just Tyler Huntley, although he's massive to this, clearly an upgrade over Cooper Rush. But the defense was holding its weight. They were manufacturing pressure. There was pressure from the rookie Mike Green without it being manufactured, just beating his guy. There were turnovers made on the defensive side. There was a running game that was going. Todd Monken called a great game. I mean, the defensive blitz packages that Orr came out with, just like from a top level, all of those things, everybody finally stepped up to surround Tyler Huntley, and then Tyler Huntley played mistake-free ball, is the hero in Baltimore today, and you can take a sigh of relief for 5 days.
I think Lamar's doing the exact same thing. Here's his tweet from 5 minutes ago exactly. Dub Sundays with almost like a bittersweet tears of joy emoji with some hearts and pizzazz and party emojis. I mean, it's got to be a breath of fresh air, to your point, a sigh of relief, knowing that you go to 1-6. You not only really need to win out or darn near close to it, you may even need a little bit of luck and fortune down the stretch. And so, at least for another week or 5 days, because it's going to be a short one, as we've already discussed, with the Miami Dolphins looming and a trip down to South Florida, at least for another 5 days, you give yourself a much-needed infusion of energy, belief, positivity, and that's exactly what they did today. And Sarah, no question, Tyler Huntley deserves a ton of credit. I was one of them. I was one of them that didn't feel like, based on what we'd seen on tape, not only from him in that second half sample size that we saw against the Rams, but just the way that this offense wasn't moving the football, the way that this offense was stalling in the red zone, the conservative play calling, the mistake football, right? The turnover-prone football that they were playing in recent weeks gave me very, very little confidence, even with the additions that they got, which was obviously so desperately needed when it came to getting healthy lineup-wise. So, yeah, I will eat some words, obviously, when it comes to what Snoop gave them, the way that this offense methodically moved the football outside of what you've already mentioned. When you go 3 and out and you give up well over 5 yards per play, by the way, in the first 2 Chicago offensive drives, I'm thinking it's going to be a long, long day. And they bent, but they didn't break. And I felt like that was a theme throughout much of the afternoon. You credit Zach Orr. Somehow, some way, again, they were getting gashed on those first 2 drives defensively. But what did they do? They stood tall when it mattered the most, held Chicago to field goals there. And as John Harbaugh emphasized in his postgame press conference, Sarah, you go back, that loomed significantly large in the ultimate outcome here.
Like John Harbaugh was asked, like, what made him make the decision to go with Tyler Huntley over Cooper Rush this week. I think all of us saw the way that he infused the Ravens offense when he was brought in the fourth quarter of the Rams game. It makes you wonder, right? You always want to, you can never go back and say what would have happened in the past, but obviously it makes you wonder if the Ravens had gone to Tyler Huntley earlier. But John Harbaugh said after the game why he made that decision. He said, nothing against Cooper. Cooper's a great guy and played good football for us, but Tyler was the answer for today's game. It wasn't a hard decision. It wouldn't have been a hard decision for me either. I mean, at least based off of what we saw here. And by the way, I was one of those people that was like, hey, Tyler Huntley doesn't have like a winning record when he's a starter. And I thought Cooper Rush did. But Cooper Rush does not fit in this offense. He doesn't. And Tyler Huntley is not Lamar Jackson when it comes to his legs, but he sure sometimes looks like Lamar compared to Cooper. You know, when you're putting it compared to him, that his legs are actually a threat. I mean, Tyler Huntley I will get to those in a second right here. So he was 17 of 22, 186 yards through the air. Okay. These are not numbers that are like, you know, franchise quarterback type of stuff. 186 yards. That's all you need. He threw for 1 touchdown. We got more touchdowns from Derrick Henry. He got 2 more. 0 interceptions. This offense had 0 turnovers today. And that is so part of not shooting yourself in the foot. Tyler Huntley had 116.9 quarterback rating, and then he added 53 yards with his legs. I mean, he did everything you would want him to do. John Harbaugh said it couldn't have been more of a perfect game because they actually played complementary football. They actually played complementary football. They had Pat Ricard back out there. Derrick Henry looked rejuvenated. Keaton Mitchell, we had Keaton Mitchell signings, but none of it would have been able to happen without the mistake-free football of Tyler Huntley, who said he didn't even know he was going to start until like Saturday night. I mean, they were obviously preparing for it. He clearly had first-team reps throughout the week. We'll talk about that later. So they prepared him for it. But then he just came out and delivered. And Bobby, I feel like Tyler Huntley has returned to the Baltimore Ravens as a more complete quarterback. He looks improved to me from the last time he was with this team before he left for Miami and a few other places before coming back.
Well, and along those lines, he kind of alluded to it post-game, Sarah, just how much of a blessing it is to be back in Baltimore, because when you have stops at Cleveland, Miami, those types of organizations that have been in turmoil in recent years, I think you realize some of the stability, some of the opportunity that he's been obviously blessed with as a former undrafted rookie out of Utah, and now back with the Ravens for a 3rd stint. Let me be clear. I think Todd Monken deserves a game ball today. I thought he was absolutely exceptional. And as a result of that exceptional game plan and the way that it was executed, Tyler Huntley deserves a game ball. He took what the defense gave him, Sarah. He played within the confines of Todd Monken's scheme and offense, right? He played mistake-free football, which is what you've already alluded to. I'll reiterate that because we should continue to do so, because this offense has coughed the football up time and time again throughout its four-game losing streak leading into today. And Snoop, Sarah, none bigger chops, none bigger moxie than that 3rd down conversion to DeAndre Hopkins when you got to have it, and he delivers it back shoulder where D-Hop only could go and get it. Did D-Hop get away with a little something there?
I think so, probably.
Probably, but I guess they give the savvy vet, that is, the benefit of doubt. But Sarah, for him to have that kind of poise, if you're Snoop, for him to have that kind of composure, that kind of execution, that's why you brought him in. And so we can have the conversation about, you know, woulda, coulda, shoulda in terms of him being the guy, the primary backup. Look, there'll be some hard conversations maybe down the line in the months ahead aimed at Eric DeCosta in terms of some of his offseason decision-making, particularly given the money that they spent, even though it doesn't break the bank. But Cooper Rush clearly was a disappointment. And I was wrong when I said that Cooper gave him the best chance to win. Some of that has to do with the offensive line deficiencies. But you know what? To your point, I think Snoop went out, got a feel for the rest of the league, developed? How about the arm angles? How about the quickness? How about the release? Not a lot of that was showcased his previous 2 stints. He got the ball out of his hand quickly. Todd Monken was dialing him up. He was playing mistake-free football, managed the game at an elite level. It's a salute to Snoop. Job well done. Chicago was down. That conversation could be had as well. Their top 3 secondary members down, either on IR or unavailable. None bigger than Tyreek Stevenson. I had a Bears reporter on my pregame show who kind of thought gave some good context in terms of what Todd Monken was going to be able to exploit, and they did. And they made a concerted effort right out of the half. Remember, they deferred once they won the toss to begin the game, and that ended up paying dividends for them. First of all, Chicago had a lot of mismanagement today at the end of the first half and at the end of the second half. That fan base has got to be irate right now with some of the issues they had when it came to game mismanagement. But again, the Ravens hung in there. They looked ugly in the eye, Sarah Ellison. And as a result, their playoff hopes remain alive. And again, a big salute to Tyler Snoop Huntley.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, the story after the game where Tyler told a story. He and John were talking about text messages and phone calls that were exchanged. It sounds like Tyler Huntley texted John Harbaugh during training camp. I have it right here on the screen of what was going on with him. Cleveland released him right after the preseason. And before that had happened, though, he had texted John Harbaugh saying, wouldn't it be cool if we came back together? To your point, he just sounded like a guy that was so happy and just feels so blessed to be back in Baltimore. And he just gets along with so many guys in the locker room. You could see the instant chemistry he had with Zay Flowers yet again. And we saw that against the Rams in the fourth quarter. He and Lamar get along really well. I mean, they're just great friends. And Bobby, this was the moment. This series right here was when I was like, oh, Tyler's not messing around, because remember, they went 3 and out. And in the first quarter, that's the only possession they had because the Bears were dominating at least between the 20s against the Ravens defense. Right. We'll get to the defense here in just a minute, and their bend but don't break mentality, which worked wonders today. And so finally, Tyler gets back out there early in the second quarter. And I thought the Ravens were in trouble again, because they started out where they called Isaiah Likely for the face mask, which it should have been offsetting. Isaiah got the Bears defender, but the Bears defender got him back. Oh, well, they were 1st and 23. And I'm like, you just can't put Tyler in this type of position, guys. I'm like, you guys got to be here to support the backup quarterback. But he ends up connecting. And then I'm like, wow, he might dig them out of this hole. Then there's that Ronnie Stanley false start. So then they go back to 2nd and 22. And then Tyler just hits a couple more big plays. I think on that whole sequence going back and forth, he may have hit like a 20-yarder and a 15-yarder, an 8-yarder, like all these different things. And then he converted for a first down with his legs on an option run. And then Derrick Henry was able to finish off the drive. That drive right there was 12 plays, 82 yards, 6:48 game clock, and then 7 points. And I was like, oh, okay, Tyler Huntley is not going down. Like, he's not going to be defeated. And even though his teammates were having these penalties, and he dug them out, and it was almost like it felt to me that Tyler Huntley gave a spark to the offense again. Like he gave it in the fourth quarter against the Rams. And then right there, when they had mistakes and flags were flying, he kept it going. Tyler Huntley kept it going. Derrick Henry finished it. And props that finally Todd Monken realized who he has at the goal line. And he's got Pat Ricard back, so maybe he felt a little bit more comfortable. But that was the moment that I think that the Ravens, me, probably everybody around Baltimore, felt like, okay, Tyler came to play, and maybe he can lead this defense or this offense. Bobby, remember when we were making predictions? At the time that we were making predictions, I predicted the Ravens would score 30 points. Because I was like, I know this offense is capable of scoring 30 points per game or more. Well, they scored 30 points with Tyler Huntley leading the way. And again, they got help from the defense with 2 turnovers. One of those touchdowns was inside the 10-yard line. But that was the moment I knew Tyler Huntley came to play, and he never let up after that.
No, okay. So that was the moment that you kind of like had this light bulb type reaction, right? That Snoop could actually be the guy today on this day against this opponent. I'll tell you the moment that I felt like was game defining. Okay. And it came in the second half, in the fourth quarter, when the Ravens choose to punt it after trying to get him offside, right? At 4th and 5. And Sarah, I got it when they're lining up to go for it on 4th and 5 and Snoop's, trying to get these guys to go offside. I'm thinking to myself, oh, goodness gracious. You cannot go for it right now on 4th and 5. You just cannot. I know.
And how about Lamar on the sideline when it didn't work? He's like laughing. He's like, "Nice try, buddy."
He's laughing. He's laughing his arse off. I'm sitting here like, you cannot go for it on 4th and 5. You just cannot. And ultimately, they don't. And what follows? Well, a lot of credit follows because John Harbaugh, I think, deserves credit for trusting his defense and punting the football away in a big moment. Jordan Stout deserves a ton of credit for pinning the Bears deep.
And he gave himself that credit. He was fired up after that.
You know it. And a nice hookup with Tylen, by the way, who downed it cleanly right there inside the 5, inside the 3, somewhere there. It backed the Bears up. You could tell that Caleb Williams and company were very uncomfortable. And then came the Ravens defense smothering. And then comes the instincts of a second-year player who had a target on his back, if you will, early in Nate Wiggins, who jumps the route. Sarah Rome Odunze had been having his way against Wiggins. And in this case, Nate just showed those instincts, that playmaking ability that the Ravens loved from him coming out of Clemson. They use a first-rounder on him because of it in 2024. What a great jump. Grabs that football, returns it a little bit. Todd Monken and Tyler Huntley and Charlie Kohler do the rest. It's an impressive sequence. It's the game-defining sequence for my money and a big one for this Ravens offense.
It definitely was like, okay, I mean, it wasn't for sure. It didn't for sure seal the win, but it was pretty darn close. I mean, they still had some ball to play after that, but that was the moment that I was like, yeah, they're going to win this. They are going to win this because there's just so many times when you go into the fourth quarter with the Ravens and you're like, okay, the Ravens are going into the fourth quarter with the lead, but like there was just so much momentum on their side. There was so much juice on their side, and credit DJ Moore and that one-handed ball that he brought in. So there was that moment there. You get a little bit nervous, but again, the defense came up with big play in the red zone. What was the red zone? I'm actually I don't think I looked that up. But the red zone defense, one of the times it was just outside of the red zone, but they were moving the ball. But the red zone defense was absolutely on fire. And maybe it was partially just because the Bears were, I don't know, falling apart. But the key to it all for the defensive side, and we'll get more into the defense in a minute, but the key on that was the first 2 drives. The reason why the Bears were able to get things going, because Caleb Williams is not the guy that's like the engine. It was that they let the run game get going in those first 2 drives. And then they figured out how to stop the run game. They started playing in their lanes. They were able to seal the edges more. That's what kind of made the difference on defense. So, but I don't know. We don't want to dig too far into that, but props to Nate Wiggins for having a rough start and then coming up with that game-defining play. But I think you're right. I think we both hit some of the game-defining series, one that jump-started him and maybe one that was close to sealing it there in the fourth quarter.
Well, props to Derrick Henry as well, who surpassed the great Walter Payton to move into sole possession of 5th place all-time in NFL rushing touchdowns. He didn't do anything spectacular today or Derrick Henry-like in terms of, I guess, statistically speaking. 21 carries, 71 yards, 2 touchdowns. But, Sarah, they had 177 total on the ground, including 53, as you already had up on the slide earlier, from Tyler Huntley. And that included a long of 29, which I think is what you've already referenced too, which just again speaks to how decisive he was playing today. He was playing decisively, comfortably. And as a result, this offense, for the most part, was moving methodically, particularly in that second half. So, again, good news for the King. Not only was it a secure day from a ball security standpoint, but you had a great effort from him. And you can't mention the ground game and those 177 total rushing yards without, yet again, mentioning the spark. Speaking of sparks, that's exactly what Keaton Mitchell gave him, Sarah, whether it was as a return specialist or, more importantly, as a rusher today. 4 carries, 43 yards. He averaged 10.8 per carry, a long of 25. And Sarah, John Harbaugh made it clear when asked about it postgame. They needed to get him more involved, and they made a concerted effort to do so strategy-wise over the bye.
Look at these numbers. Justice Hill had 1 carry. The Ravens clearly moved on. We're going to talk about this report that came out on Todd Monken in just 1 second, literally after we talk about the running backs. But in that report, it said that the players felt like he was trying to do too much with getting everybody the ball. And they were like, just give it to the guy. When I read it, I was like, it read it to me as if like, just keep Derrick Henry in there is the way it felt. And then Keaton Mitchell, the first time, that toss, Bobby, I don't know where that play has gone, because they had so much success with it last year, including to Derrick Henry. That toss to Keaton Mitchell, and it was just like, I swear smoke was coming from his cleats. Like, he was just on fire running down the sideline. And I'm like, I can't believe they've had this speed sideline for this long. It just, and that's not to diminish Justice Hill, because I like Justice, and Justice is like a pretty good compliment to Derrick Henry. But Keaton is more. Keaton has more speed coming off of that injury, the way he has that speed. And then they leaned into it more in the fourth quarter, which again is just great. Like, you've been pounding them and pounding these defensive players with Derrick Henry and his size for 3 quarters, and they are exhausted. So why not hit them with some speed? They're not going to be able to keep up with that. So Keaton Mitchell with a 10.8 average per carry, his long of 25, I think it was the toss that we talked about, 4 attempts for 43 yards. And then Derrick just getting the bulk of it. That's the way it needs to be. Derrick was on the field so much more. He had 21 attempts, 71 yards. Yes, only a 3.4, but that's what sets the 3.4 yards per carry average, but that's what sets up the rest of the offense. And then I finally looked up the red zone numbers. The Ravens in the red zone were 3 of 6, so it still needs to improve for sure. Last year, I think they were 80%. 3 for 6 is obviously better than what we've been seeing recently. So hopefully it's a stepping stone. It's not where we're satisfied. But how about this? Goal to go situations, Ravens were 3 for 3. And we were so upset. I'll speak for me. I was so upset with Todd Monken when he didn't use Derrick Henry in the goal line against the Rams. And he did it. And the first time he did it, Derrick Henry scored and repaid him. And then the second time he tried to do it, Derrick Henry scored and helped repay him. By the way, the Bears, I was looking this up earlier, they were 1 for 3. So 33% in the red zone, and also 1 for 3 for the goal to go line. And so what a relief that must have been for Todd Monken. And I grabbed this screen grab right here, where he is up in the booth, the coach's booth. Look at all of these guys. It's only Pagano that's just like keeping the straight face. Todd Monken, they showed him a couple times, and he was just so amped up. And I can't imagine what it must have felt like for him, knowing that like his side of the ball was keeping up more of the bargain than his end of the bargain more than the defense. Now, what was said in this article that was put up by the Banner, I think, was it Friday night that it came out? Friday or Saturday?
Yeah.
And what's funny is it was a little bit of a hit job, but kind of not. Like, when I was reading it, like, the anonymous players were actually kind of measured. Like, one of them was like, no, don't say it that way. That's kind of a lazy way to say it. Like, they were just saying, we want him to like get a better feel for the game. And we want him to connect what our plan was going into the game and not deviate from it and go with the hot hands. Like, stay with the plan we had and go with the hot hands and try not to do too much. I thought all of it was fair critiques, to be honest. It's not like anybody was like ripping him. I thought it was actually quite measured. Nonetheless, that's the second time he got called out, because this one was by the Baltimore Banner. The week before, it was from the Baltimore Sun. And so he got called out by his own players that were anonymous. And so this right here, he had to feel so good. Bobby, I loved his play calling today. I thought he was excellent. The way he like used the run game and the pass game to complement each other, the things he dialed up, there was creativity in the red zone. Like, he returned to the running backs. He got Keaton Mitchell in there. Like, It was just an excellent game by Todd Monken, I felt like.
The Zay Flowers jet sweep, jumbo packages, Ricard in there in different capacities. The third down beauty, back shoulder to DeAndre Hopkins when you got to have it on third down. And then, oh, by the way, not to mention, you exploit deficiencies. You exploit weak spots. The Bears secondary, as we've already mentioned, was down 3 key starters. What do? Right out of the half? They test him out through the air vertically, and big play Bateman does what he does. He and Huntley hook up for a 36-yard connection, Sarah, a strike from Snoop. Big play there by Bateman. Zay Flowers leads the way, statistically speaking, through the air. 7 receptions for 63 yards. Bateman has 2 for 51. Mark Andrews, quiet day on National Tight Ends Day, but he had at least 1 big catch out there, 3 for 34. So it was just a well-balanced attack. And to your point, like, double-digit folks speaking anonymously within the last week or so. It's so noisy. It's got to feel so good for Monken and this entire staff to get a W, keep this thing alive. And I think we all know, if you were to list and prioritize or rank some of the issues here, at least for me and my money, Sarah, Todd Monken's nowhere near the top of that list in terms of what's been most problematic so far through now 8 weeks.
No, I mean, absolutely not. I mean, again, I thought the critiques in that story were fair, but it's just so odd knowing that the offense has done more than the defense. And so everybody's expecting, like, if there's like an anonymous hit piece, you would have thought it would have been on Zach Orr, but that wasn't the case. Now, again, probably just because they weren't living up to their potential over on the offensive side, whereas on the defensive side, there was still growing pains and, injuries on several places. Obviously, Lamar's injured on the offensive side, but again, I thought the critique was fair. But when you zoom out and say, why is it that Todd Monken is the one getting called out of everybody? I agree that he wasn't in like the top 10 of problems that the Ravens have. But meanwhile, Bobby, it was so nice to see Lamar out there today. He was so engaged from the beginning of the game till the end. I mean, he just, again, I don't know if it's in part because of Tyler Huntley. Like he does this for Tyler Moore. I feel like he just roots for Tyler so much. He cares about him. I feel like they care about each other, but Lamar, from the beginning of the game to the end, he was always right there next to his quarterback's coach, T. Martin. He's flashing smiles. He's hitting guys on the helmets. He's telling them good job. It was just great to see him there. And this might be a good place to pause because there was a lot of mystery about what happened over the weekend and what happened with his status. But maybe we should do a read and some super chats before John Harbaugh explains all that. What do you think?
Sure. Yeah, that sounds great. Just to piggyback off you for a second, though. I mean, we hadn't seen this. We hadn't seen this kind of demeanor, this kind of body language, this kinds of sideline engagement in what feels, weeks. Whether he was playing or not playing, there was just this cloud over him and the team that had reared its ugly head time and time again, whether it was CBS sideline shots or press conferences or you name it. So to your point, to have this kind of energy just be shooting through your TV screen, or maybe you guys had a sideline view if you were at the bank today, what a welcome sight and hopefully a sign of things to come for this team that could become contagious. What's become contagious is our love for Manta Sleep. And maybe you guys feel the same way too, because we hear time and time again, hey, can we get that discount code? Does that discount code still exist? Yes, it does. As of just a couple weeks ago, doesn't it, partner? And you got your mask right there. Let's talk about Manta Sleep. I shouldn't say our newest brand sponsor because that'd be inaccurate.
No, they're actually our longest standing brand sponsor. It's just that they're back.
You know it. Our longest standing brand sponsor is back, and Manta Sleep is how you enhance your sleep, whether it be through an actual physical sleep mask or maybe a sound machine like the Ellison household has now, or you name it. Look at all the different features they have under sleep masks alone. What about sleep add-ons? They got sleep journals, pillow sprays, True Red night lights, travel pillows, blue light glasses.
I kind of want to try that pillow. I don't even think I realized that existed.
Uh-oh. We're going to
tell that silky smooth pillow. Mulberry silk? Sign me up.
We're going to tell Red and our friend Leah at Manta Sleep to Dial it up. You never know. They're so freaking generous. They might. But the good news is for you guys, all of this site-wide right now, if you find something you like and you use the discount code VAULT10, that's VAULT10, it's going to get you 10% off your next purchase. So here are some of your masks, I should say, not all of them. There's just a few of them that you can choose from on screen. And here's what they provide. A true 100% blackout for a deeper sleep. C-shaped eye cups for unbeatable side sleep comfort. Zero pressure on your eyelids or lashes. Advanced materials built in for ventilation and unmatched breathability. And Sarah, I know you got the sound new gen right in front of you right there. I got my old reliable Manta Sleep Mask Pro, which is what you see in the upper right-hand corner. If you're in the audio-only space, just go to the show notes. We've got direct links. You've got the silk and the sleep mask. Any reviews so far from the Ellison household?
Yeah, they all love it. They're still debating over who gets to keep this one, the sound mask. It's just kind of cool. You got the power button right here. So if you have it on, it's just right here. You got the volume up and down. You can't even feel any of it though. So right here is where they put in the speakers for you. And it just has a Bluetooth connection, little charger on this side. And it's just also soft. And so whatever you want to listen to, it's right there in your ears with the sound mask. And here is the sound machine. There's lots of different noises that you can put on there. That's actually quite soothing. There's probably one for you on here, but Bobby, there's so many things on here. I don't even think I noticed, like there were those earplugs. I don't know if anybody sleeps with a spouse that might be a little, I don't know, have some snoring issues or things. My husband actually gets called throughout the night when he's on call, like 5 or 6 times throughout the night. So that might need to be something I look into, but there's a Manta sleep journal there. Look at that. You got everything.
Look at this nasal strips. We've never gone into it this deeply because, again, you can get down a little bit of a rabbit hole here, can't you?
You sure can. Nose vents. Maybe that would help stop the snoring. Pillow spray. Go to the pillow spray. What's that? All right. That's it. I need everything here. Arctic bed set. Does that mean it's warm?
Well,
I get
look
cold.
at the travel
cold
pillow.
easily. Oh.
Like, what if you get stuck in the middle seat? Come on. Travel pillow for the win. No question.
That's great.
Vault 10, VAULT10 will get you 10% off your next purchase. And to Sarah's point at the top, long-standing partners really have a close place in our heart just because they really power this channel, and we appreciate them. So thanks to Manta Sleep. Great to have you guys back on board. Makta got us started earlier this afternoon, and Makta Mahari says, I was at the game today, and the energy was just so different. The crowd brought it today.
Yes.
Good to know, because you kept seeing those shots and attendance. I never saw a final number, but attendance did look like it was lacking somewhat. But it's nice to know from Makta that they came, those that were in attendance came and brought it. Olu's in the house.
I got my glasses on here, Bobby. Let's see if I can read better. We'll see. Bobby, believe. Sarah, thank you.
Olu. Douglas H. Brown Sr. says, I will admit I was nervous. Melvin celebrating 2 months of channel membership with us.
Melvin says, Femi, right on point. The team looked inspired and ready to play. Snoop did a great job today. The team will run to the AFC title. Not AFC North, but he says AFC title. Hashtag LJ8 to the playoffs.
Okay, Melvin. Chris Peterson says, don't let this win distract you from the fact that Harbaugh still didn't make any changes to the offensive line. Eric Hill is here.
Eric, what's up? I reached out to Eric. Did you notice that by email? I wanted to make sure he was okay because I knew he was injured. Did you see that? Eric,
No,
I'm glad
thank you for doing that for us.
I'm glad you're on the way up. I'm serious. I emailed him. I said, is there anything we can do to help? I'm serious about that. Eric's that kind of guy that he puts so much good out in the universe. Like you just want to repay him. So I'm glad to see you here, Eric. In case no one tells you today that they love you, just know I do. I have to go back and watch the game, but we got a victory. Everyone be blessed and safe.
Thanks for doing that, Sarah, on behalf of the show. I got to go and get myself caught up on what was said and talked about. Darren Alexander says, Bobby, I'm going to need that lap out of you. Looks like the Ravens have joined the 2025 season. Go Ravens. What's the lap for, Darren? Justin Holt celebrating 5 months of channel membership.
I'm not getting into this. I will say I watched your personal channel over the weekend. That got a little bit crazy.
Ooh,
I'm not getting in the middle of all that.
Well, Ryan, like I said, I owed Ryan an apology for speaking to him the way I did. Oof. God, you must not recognize me when you tune into those. That's neither
Oh
here nor
boy,
there.
that's
Oh,
it was a different Bobby, that's for sure.
I gotta tone it down. I know that.
Yeah. Well, I like the way you guys made up. You guys were cool. I always appreciate that. Justin Holt says, great day to be alive. Ravens are back, and my son Victor Elvis Holt gets a pick 6 for the Lackawanna Falcons JUCO. Oh, nice. That's awesome. 10-6 granddaughter birth. Hashtag blessed. You are blessed. There we go.
Heck yeah. Justin, right on the PA Maryland border, right? I think you're up near York or somewhere around there. Congratulations. And hey, just to be clear, because some people might be in the dark on what the heck we were just discussing. Over the weekend, I did a personal 90-minute show on all the Lamar stuff, which we're going to get to for the 15th time at some point in a couple of minutes. And a guy named Ryan Johs, or Johs, hopefully I'm not botching his last name, said something that set me off, which was sort of a cumulative effect, Sarah, when we sometimes get things, words, let's call it, put in our mouths in different narratives and whatnot in the live chat. And so I did kind of act out of character a little bit, particularly given my language. And then he actually stood 10 toes down and called in. He called in. So I commended him for that. I apologized to him for speaking that, but I also still stand by that I was not gloating over being right. We'll get to that in just a bit.
Hey, maybe offline, I will give you my feedback on why you came across that way.
Okay. Well, you can do it. You can do it when we get into it.
Okay, we'll do it at the end.
I'd love to hear your thoughts.
It'll be it's like friendly partnership feedback. That's all.
All right. It was a spirited debate. So I'll stand. We'll get to it in just a bit. It was a spirit between the three of us. I thought, going back to the debate a few days ago.
Between you, me, and Febby.
It stemmed from that. There was a lot of, that was a high-spirited debate. And so in a way I felt we'll get into it in a couple minutes.
Through at the end. Yeah, let's get through everything, and then we'll talk about your show.
But I'm glad Ryan accepted my apology. I mean, I think I didn't need to speak to him the way that I did, and that's on me. Fernando says, called it almost down to the score. Ravens will continue rising. Minx to Cutie's in the house, and she's celebrating 3 months of channel membership.
She says, I've been here more than 3 months. LOL. Meaning her 3-month membership, but that's what YouTube is counting it as. I need to keep my subscription renewal up to date, she says, but today was one of the best birthday presents. Hashtag 55. Minx to Cutie is 55.
Doesn't look like it in that.
She looks a lot younger than 55. Woo!
You already know that,
Minx.
You already know that, Minx. 55, 31, I guess it's possible. You never know. Silent Wrath is becoming our newest channel, VAULTRON. So Silent Wrath, great to have you as part of our community. Servette Mob Squad Ent. Did I get that? Servette? Sure. He says Bobby's from New York, so he's low-key a Giants fan. Grew up one. You guys know the story from there. I've only said it a million times. Douglas H. Brown Sr. is with us.
He says, you guys need to stop hating on Bobby. Look at Douglas H. coming in for you.
Keep bringing it, though. Come on. Sergeant Knight says, great birthday win, Ravens. Schnitzels for everyone. Schnitzels? Schnitzels. Are you at an Oktoberfest? Minx to Cutie, on top of her super chat, or at least her membership anniversary of 3 months, has gifted 5 channel memberships. Appreciate you, Minx.
We're getting more green in the chat again. We're getting more green between her and was it Sherry who was giving out a bunch on Friday?
Oh yeah. You know it. Sherry Milan went nuts on Friday. Minx is here feeling those birthday oats, baby. Let's go. Lainey Lately's in the house.
She says Ravens got the dub against all odds, and I am a very happy Ravens fan today.
Captain says this was the best game overall this year. Offense, defense, and special teams. Both coordinators called a good game.
Mm-hmm.
The line actually didn't look bad. Bobby, do you believe a little tiny bit? I believe they're going to keep things interesting. Yes. 7G Phil is celebrating 5 months.
He says we are back in all caps. Hashtag Vault. Hashtag Voltrons. Hashtag laugh now, cry later. Woof, Sarah. Oh, then he has a Sarah base. He's got probably the 2 Sarah emojis, the woof one and the base one.
Kobe. What's going on, Kobe? KP says, seems like it was a good idea to play Keith Mitchell. Who could have predicted this, in caps? Garrett Family Aquatics.
He said Snoop made him some money today, boy. Get Rush out of here. It will be interesting. I don't want to disrespect Cooper Rush, but it does make you wonder, do they need to have 3 quarterbacks on this roster? Maybe you want to wait a week or two to see how Lamar's feeling. But I don't know that you need 3 quarterbacks.
Samuel McDougall says Snoop, he was looking like Jackson Jr. out there. And KP says, no doubt in my mind, Snoop would have beaten the Rams. Cooper Rush will be remembered as a big miss on EDC's resume. I don't know if I can go that far. Yes, he moved the ball immediately when he came in, but he still made mistakes in that Rams game. This is a very different Chicago Bears team compared to when you stack them up against the Rams. But I guess you can at least have that conversation based on what he did today.
I feel it was a miss, and I think it was a miss on my part. I put a lot of stock into his winning record. He didn't fit in here. I feel like it was a miss, and I feel like I missed too.
Well, but to be clear, though, I was commenting on, I see where you went with that. Do you think that he had it? Do you think the Rams outcome would have been different had he gotten all 4 quarters? That's what KP's getting at here.
Oh, I think he's saying
one of two things.
If Snoop Huntley had gotten all 4 quarters?
Well, so one of two things. One of what you just addressed is my interpretation of what KP's getting at, the free agency decision. And then do you think it would have been different had he gotten all 4 quarters against the Rams?
Right. Like you can never say, but perhaps, I mean, the Ravens defense held them to under 20 points. Yeah. Could Snoop have pushed the, I mean, I don't think that's a crazy notion. You can never prove it, but I mean, KP, I think is onto something.
Maybe there's an argument to be made.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could get past the fact that the Rams are championship-esque versus Chicago, the conversations that we were having coming in here, the 4-game win streak in terms of looking at, who they beat. Is it the same old Chicago Bears? Don't know. And maybe we won't. Did you hear the statistic that I was refreshed on during the broadcast? This same team, well, it wasn't the same team, but last year Chicago Bears were 4-2, and then they lost their last 10 games last year. That is insane.
But anyway. Bobby, the Rams only scored 17 points. Do I think Snoop Huntley could have gotten them more than 3 points? I do. You can't. We'll never prove it.
Yeah, well, we never will. The Rams defense is so much more elite than Chicago.
And the Bears.
Whatever. I mean, it's neither here nor there. But
yeah.
Appreciate you, KP. Whiplash4 says, where are we building the Tyler Huntley statue?
Yeah.
Make sure, and man, oh man, this is a hilarious comment. I picked up on this in the post.
Can I get a Tyler Huntley photo behind instead of Ray Lewis? Is that what we're doing?
Move over, Ray. Move over, Ray. This is hilarious, though. The second part of Whiplash's super chat. Make sure it has those pearly whites in there too. Tyler's teeth were extremely white in that post game.
Well, and he got rid of like the gap in his teeth. Here's what's funny. I think Tyler looks great both ways. I love his smile either way. But like his original one, I just loved it. This new one, he looks like a movie star. It's like either way, Tyler Huntley looks great with that smile.
Sergeant Knight has gifted 5 channel memberships today. Appreciate you, Sergeant. Salute to you. Alan Craig is celebrating 4 months of channel membership, partner.
He says, we need this defense to turn up for the rest of the season.
It
helps that it was Caleb Williams. I'll tell you that much.
Caleb struggled today, and there was, again, loads and loads of mismanagement at the end of the first half, at the end of the second half. They turned the ball over. And it's funny, too. Were they the first ranked turnover margin team league-wide at plus 11? I think they were.
Yes.
And the Ravens were last, right? And coming into this game.
I don't think last, but they were like in the 20s. But the Ravens are plus 2 in this game.
And they needed every bit of it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Truth. Biggie 3, Sarah's in the house. Or I'm sorry. Did we? No, we had Truth up there, right?
Yeah, but did we read it?
Gosh, I'm going so fast. Did we even read Truth?
I didn't read it.
I did.
You? Okay. We can't get Truth like that.
We're going so fast. Why don't you take it, partner?
He says King Henry should be moving up all the way to number 3 by the end of the season if Monken would stop screwing around in the red zone and if they would bench number 77.
That's in terms of the all-time rushing touchdown leader list. Rave says everyone's happy. Hope Lamar is coming back to the same offensive line, Sarah. You told me John's ego is not bigger than the win. This offensive line will fail Lamar. Dope Dad celebrating 6 months of channel membership.
This is the fight we've been looking for. What else can be taken out of the locker room? Take out more stuff. Hashtag take out all the music, I guess. Is that what worked? No, because they took it out after the Chiefs game, just an FYI. It didn't work then. But a hashtag flock up, hashtag light for the night.
And hey, Rave, English and super chats would be awesome. Appreciate you. Superstar has become our newest channel, VAULTRON. Appreciate you, Superstar. welcome to official membership. Flip to Freedom says, amazing win. We're going to go on a run. And Oceans is in the house.
Disgusting how many Bears fans were at the game.
Ooh. Oceans, were you there, I assume, or are you just talking about what you saw on the TV copy? Kobe's back, and he says, I wonder what happened between press availability and the game for Marlowe. The way he was talking earlier in the week, you were sure they were cooked, but the defense surprisingly played hungry. Wow. Yes, it did. Loss so serious is celebrating 5 months.
After today, I want to see more Keaton. All I see is the Kobe Bryant meme. More. More.
Sunkissed 179Q was hoping the coaches, players, and staff watched Remember the Titans over the bye. Maybe they did.
I love that movie.
Maybe they did.
I love that movie.
Kevin Perry has become our latest VAULTRON official channel membership status. Kevin, great to have you. And Dreams is in the house.
Dream says offense played better under Huntley. Defense looked a lot better with Hamilton around the line of scrimmage, but Dolphins might not be a cakewalk after today's game.
That brings us to KP. Again, Kobe's in the house, and he says, when Green adds more weight and strength, referring to Mike, he's going to be legit. Has everything, moves, body control, etc. He's just a little small for NFL tackles. They ran at him deliberately at least once there in the red zone. We're going to get to an entire defensive topic after we talk about Lamar and what took place over the weekend. Appreciate you, KP. Great observation. Capybara.
GG, good game. But why do we keep trying to run up the gut with Henry? Him bouncing off, backpedaling guards, then going full, I'll do it myself by running it in wide was hilarious, but I'd rather see a pitch out. So he's talking about the touchdown where he went right up the middle. It was a wall and he bounced outside and got the touchdown. Yeah, I think it needs to be a variety. We talked about that pitch toss to Keaton. We could do more of those with Derrick Henry too. Derrick, that was his really long run in week 3 against the Buffalo Bills, was a toss like that. So
thanks, Cappy. Nuno's celebrating 7 months of channel membership with us. And Nuno writes, the goal line stand was a good surprise. For some weeks, Ravens were a cards castle on defense. A W at Miami and a Thibodeau, meaning Kayvon in New York, trade will put us on track again. And
we're going to be on trade watch now, especially if they win Thursday.
One step closer towards Eric, perhaps opening up the floodgates. Juju Bean is in the house.
Even in that Rams game, Snoop already looked solid. He took some sacks, but he looked solid.
Eric Hill says, I saw the email and responded back. I will be back soon to my regular scheduled program at Minx the Cutie. Happy birthday. Hashtag I still believe. Hashtag the vault. And Minx, again, happy 55th. Greg from Long Beach is here with us.
He says, I can enjoy the beach today. Hands up and toes down in the sand. Go Ravens.
Like it. Darren Alexander says, can we trade Pooper Flush and give Huntley his salary? Bobby, the lap was for your zero hope in us winning. We are not cooked yet. Douglas H. Brown Sr. is gifting us 5 channel memberships. 5 new Voltrons. Appreciate you, DHB Sr. And a new member is Sally Rocky. That's a new name. What's going on, Sally? Thank you for joining the program via channel membership. And that brings us to Kieran Martin. We'll get back to any and all super chats in just a bit. Sarah, why don't you take this one from Kieran?
All right, Kieran says, don't let this make you forget that Harbs lied on the injury report. We could lose a draft pick. We're actually going to get to Harbs. That actually sets up the next topic quite well.
And just because it came in, Lunchbox says, great team win today. Did you notice they listed Emery as a guard? Yes, they did. Emery Jones was listed as a guard, Sarah, for whatever it's worth, on the inactive list. He was just activated onto the 53-man roster from the non-football injury list after the end of his 3-week window. Of course, he was the day 2 pick in the 3rd round out of LSU. He was drafted to be a tackle. Perhaps they're now transitioning to him to guard, Sarah. Maybe that's a sign of things to come. Don't know if that could be imminent, but Emery Jones may be getting closer to at least being medically cleared, which he is not right now at the moment.
Okay, there we go.
Okay, you're right. I think it's a perfect time
to
segue.
That's the PR team who puts out that stuff.
Correct.
Guard, tackle, all that kind of stuff. And as we're about to find out, PR had a hand in how things went down over the weekend.
Correct. Perfect segue. So let's do it. Sarah, last week consisted of Lamar Jackson being present at practice during the media portion viewing all 3 days, meaning Wednesday through Friday. Wednesday and Thursday, he was limited. Friday, as of 4 o'clock Eastern, he was listed as a full participant, but really he was actually listed as a full participant by his head coach. Well, prior to
Well,
that,
he was said by his head coach to be a full practice participant, but he didn't list him. He doesn't do that. So I'm just trying to be as accurate as possible.
Yep.
Okay.
And we were still live at the time. So we shared that during John Harbaugh's 1:00 press conference. So when the injury report comes out later that afternoon, no one's really surprised. Okay, he's listed as questionable. It's still the hamstring, but he was a full participant, leading some to believe, maybe most to believe, including the Chicago Bears, that he was going to suit up and give it a go for the first time since the second half of the Kansas City game several weeks prior. Okay, fast forward to Saturday, Sarah, when Ian Rappaport of NFL Network reports that, wait a second, Lamar was actually just handling scout team duties and did not record one first team rep. Well, at the time, you're thinking, well, wait a second. That's strange. And then came the Adam Schefter report noting that for a third straight week, Lamar is expected to miss a game. And in this case, it was today, of course, against the Chicago Bears. Then came the Ravens' response. Where do we want to begin with this?
I was just letting you roll with it. You want the Ravens' response of how it went down?
I'm on a roll then. Why don't we keep going?
Yeah. Why don't you go here? Here it is for you right here.
Yep. So, and what I'm trying to do here, obviously, what I'm really trying to do here is go about it in chronological order, right? And so I think we've done that accurately to date.
Yeah.
So, again, major fallout, as you would imagine, starts to hit the timeline. Well, wait a second. Were the Ravens misleading the Bears? Was there gamemanship going on here? Why was Lamar listed as a full participant? The Ravens gave clarity from their perspective via this statement. And I'll read directly from it. Quote, Lamar Jackson was present for and participated fully in our entire Friday practice ahead of Sunday's game against the Bears. Upon further evaluation today, this was Saturday, and after conferring with the league office, because Lamar didn't take starter reps in practice, we updated our report to reflect his practice participation. This all comes to light, Sarah, because of, again, the report from Ian Rappaport Saturday morning, who, according to his sources, as you see here, he says, according to who he spoke to, Lamar was handling scout team duties. That is not typically an indication of a player that plans on playing on Sunday. Why don't you get in here now?
Yeah, so before, because John Harbaugh was asked today after the game more about this and the confusion that went down. So I did read from Pro Football Talk that if it hadn't have been this report from Ian Rappaport, this never would have even come to light. Because on Saturday, that's when he reported that Lamar Jackson ran the scout team. Okay. But on the day before, whatever sources he was talking to, he said the Ravens are preparing for Lamar Jackson to be out there starting on Sunday. That was Friday. They also moved Tyler Huntley to the 53-man roster Friday. So Ian Rappaport himself is going from, oh, Lamar, they're preparing for Lamar to play, to, oh, wait, he was on the scout team and now they're not so sure. And so this caused so much ripple effects because I'm sure the Chicago Bears are probably unhappy because everybody keeps acting like it doesn't make a big difference whether you know who's playing, but it does. And so that affects the Chicago Bears. It affects gamblers. That to me is inherent in what you're doing. You're gambling, but nonetheless, it impacts gamblers. It impacts fantasy players. It impacts city morale, like everything. It just has wide-ranging ripple effects. And so that's why you saw in the gambling markets, the Ravens go from a 6.5 point favorite to a 1 point favorite after it started. So what we found out is that the rules are, if you're not playing in practice your normal role. So for Lamar Jackson, because he wasn't taking first team reps, you cannot list him as being full. And it's lots of people have put out, they showed the rule book. And it makes it very clear. Participation on the scout team, no matter how extensive, by a player whose normal repetitions would be with the starters, but for his medical condition, would not alter the player's proper designation as limited participation. So you have to be taking first team snaps. Now, let me say something before we get to John Harbaugh. protocol could have changed, but as you know, I worked in public relations my first year as an intern. I can tell you, as an intern, I put together the injury report several times. Now, I would send it to like a boss and say, here you go, or whatever. But we never took it to coaches and rarely took it to the training camp or training side. Sometimes they do. I was not that person to do it. Sometimes they do if I would send it to a boss. But the vast majority of the time, we would just do it. And so now that you have like, you know, gambling partners and all of that kind of stuff, maybe the league wants to look into protocol and say who has to do it, who has to approve it, all that kind of stuff. Or maybe you have an independent person. But I will tell you this, Bobby, the vast majority of the time, we never took it to coaches. I don't remember ever taking it to coaches, but maybe they did it. Maybe my bosses did or whatever. So it is PR who puts that out. That being said, Harbaugh also said at podium that he played a full practice. But to get into the nitty gritty of those rules, it's the non-football side that should know those rules. And it's still a football NFL organization. I'll just say this: when I was putting it together as an intern, I wouldn't have known those rules. And so maybe it needs to be, not maybe, it obviously needs to be looked at. But those injury reports, and again, the protocol could have changed from when I did it. They rarely went over to the football side, very rarely.
That's great context. John Harbaugh, we're going to cut to it in a second, refer to it as an honest mistake. The harsh reality is, regardless of whether or not it was an honest mistake, the Ravens could be facing punishment. And I think that's where this conversation now turns to. And before we get to John Harbaugh, if I can, Sarah, Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk friend of the show, he obtained specific policy copy of what this is read as. So you had some of this from Rappaport.
That's what I just read. Well, I read that. What I just read was from Mike Florio's story.
Yep, you had some of that, and there's more too, just to kind of deep dive into like more specifics of what the actual language is, because we're getting into the nitty gritty. Hopefully it's easy to follow along here. So this is also, to your point, from Florio's copy that he obtained. The commissioner under the policy, quote, may deprive the offending club of a selection choice and or may fine the offending club and or may fine or suspend with or without pay any involved individuals as appropriate. So that's what the Ravens could be looking at. In other words, perhaps the best case scenario, Sarah, well, the best case scenario is that they do ultimately deem this to be an honest mistake, right? And there isn't even a fine. But let's call it, if there has to be some level of punishment, which is too early to assume that. But let's just, for the purpose of this exercise, say there's going to be some level of punishment. The best case scenario you would think would be a fine at this point.
No, I mean, but just to be clear, you said it could be anybody involved getting a fine. I'm just saying, when I did it as an intern, I'd be like, what are you going to fine me? I make $5 an hour. You're going to take that $5 an hour away from me? Like,
well, call it the organization.
I don't know if an intern did it this time. I'm just saying, when I did it as an intern, I'd be like, what? You're going to fine me? I don't have any money.
Well, hopefully the organization can handle that fine. That's what I'm alluding to. But, you know, from a best case scenario, assuming that there is something here that the NFL has to look into, it's a fine. The worst case scenario, as you heard there in the language, would potentially be the loss of a draft pick, singular or plural. Hopefully it does not balloon to that point. John Harbaugh, Sarah, in what's a 2-minute clip from his post-game press conference that I pulled, handled it, defended himself, defended the team, and again, referred to it as an honest mistake. Here he is post-game a short while ago.
Well, the status was pretty much the status all the way through. We were hoping. We weren't going to rule them out before we had to, and I think at the end of the day, it just, the conversations that were had, they just didn't feel like the 2 games in the 5 days would be the thing to do, so that's comes back to us. And when you hear that as a coach, that's what you do. So with him not practicing, with the first offense throughout the week, it's just getting Tyler ready to go, and we're going to go play football with Tyler. And if Lamar would have come back, I mean, if it could have happened, as a coach, I'd have put him in there. And Tyler, you'd understood that, right? That would have been the way it would have gone. But he didn't get to the point where I think they felt comfortable with that part of it. The other part of it, I'm not involved in those rules. I don't know those particular rules. So that was probably, I think, in their defense, he practiced a full practice. I think they felt like because he did the same number of reps, it was a full practice. But when you dig in and you read the rule, at the end of the day, it wasn't right. So that's what it was. That's why as soon as we found out, we changed it.
You said they. Who's they? Who makes that
Yeah, that's in the training room and the PR on the other side. It's not in the football side.
John, do you expect
the medical side?
John, do you expect?
But it's an honest mistake. I mean, it really is an honest mistake. I can tell you this: nobody's trying to hide anything. I mean, there's no advantage. There's no advantage to be gained, with that. I mean, it was he practiced. His status was what it was. He was questionable. I do think if we'd have had the old status, maybe they would have said doubtful. Maybe, I don't know, but questionable or out. We weren't going to say out because he wasn't out, until Saturday when that conversation was had on the medical side.
John, do you expect Lamar to be available to start on Thursday night?
You know what? I'm hopeful. I'm just going to say that I'm hopeful. That's just as a coach. What you do is you ask. You might, how's he doing? That's about as much as you do. How are we doing, and what do you think? And then you get the guys ready that are going to play. Then when the guys come back to practice, you put them in there and you practice them. That's how it works on the coaching side. Coaches aren't involved with, statuses and, whether guys play or not. That's not a coaching decision.
And he hasn't been cleared.
What's that?
Is that when you say that? Are you saying that he hasn't been? Has he been cleared?
I don't know what cleared means. He wasn't available for this game. He was declared out. That's the status.
I know that was long-winded, but I felt like every second of it needed to be included, Sarah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you had some facial reactions. What was going through your head through all that?
Little confused as to how he feels like there wasn't a competitive disadvantage, or excuse me, a competitive advantage. And I'm looking at this from Chicago's perspective. We had a good conversation on the pregame show today with Nick Moriano, who covers the Bears. I don't see how there isn't a competitive advantage based on what we've already said a couple times in terms of the preparation from a Chicago perspective.
Yeah, no, I think I agree with that. I think that's one reason why he is so vague with injuries all the time, is that it does get an advantage. Maybe he's saying, like, if I'm trying to have, grace and whatnot, is maybe he's saying by Friday evening, everybody's game plans are already put in. And so by then maybe Chicago had already had a game plan for Lamar and Huntley, and maybe even Cooper Rush. You know what I mean? Because it was unclear before Friday who was going to be the quarterback. So for sure there's a competitive advantage, but maybe he's just saying by Friday there isn't one to be gained anymore because the game plans are already in. Yeah. Otherwise, when he calls it an honest mistake, I believe him just because I was a part of putting together the injury reports and I had no clue about this rule. And again, protocols could have been changed. And they obviously should be changed. Whoever's in charge of the injury report going forward. And I bet now that this has all fallen on the Ravens organization, they're going to be reading quite deeply what the rules are for the injury report and all of that. And then he started talking quite a bit about, like, clearly it was Lamar and the training staff. They were discussing about whether or not Lamar was going to play today. And so clearly John really thought he could, because he had been saying it since before the bye. He's like, oh, I'm leaning into that psychologically, right? But then his demeanor changed on Monday. Remember when Lamar wasn't there and his demeanor was very changed, and we noted it. And so maybe he wasn't as hopeful Monday. But they had to know at some point, or know pretty decently, because they were putting Tyler Huntley in the first team snap. So he probably wasn't as hopeful as maybe he was before the bye. And so he's just still putting it out there because there is a competitive advantage to be gained. But when it comes time to who actually lists it out, do I think that part is an honest mistake? Yes, I do, because I was a part of that process and had no clue about that rule.
That's fair. That's fair. And I totally get it. I totally get what you're saying.
Like we just go out there and see who's playing. We're not, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. And at the same time, it's a failure.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's a failure, and it doesn't matter the intention. At the end of the day,
organizational failure is what it is.
Yes.
And that's the hard part, Sarah. It's like, that's the hard part. As much as I appreciate that context, and I'm willing to take him by his word based on your firsthand experience for over a decade, in terms of how this handling process works.
I only did it for a year, just an FYI. That part.
I was going to say, you were rising the ranks, baby. Let's go. Come on now. She could do more than injury reports, all right? She's going to create the best podcast that's ever existed inside that house, all right? Let's be clear on that one. One that still exists, by the way, a column that still exists. Thank you very much.
I love it.
Okay, that's a little soapbox. But at the end of the day, it's an organizational failure, and they may end up paying for it as a result. And so whether that punishment is something as insignificant to an organization that's worth millions and millions and millions, if not billions, from a fine standpoint, or at worst, what they covet, draft compensation, draft capital, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
Or none of those. We'll see.
Like, honest mistake, fine, we take you at your word. But the same thing happens in games. You could like honestly mistake to throw an interception, but it's still an interception. Or you know what I mean? Like you can honestly think that you could have had perfect form on a fumble, but you still fumbled. Yeah. So the NFL is going to have to decide that. Now, do I think that's worth like a first round cancellation of picks or anything like that? I don't know that I would go that far. But at the end of the day, the organization is in charge of it, and whoever they delegate it to, there needs to be proper training, and they have to get it correct. And if the NFL really wants to do it, because there is lots of gamemanship, they can have independent people doing it. They can have cameras running during practice, and they can have independent people at the NFL office put these out. And then, all teams, it's going to be fair for everybody because all teams are going to have that independent person. However they want to do it, that's fine. If you want to leave it at the team, that's fine. But the Ravens as an organization has to train, and there needs to be somebody who's on top of all of those rules.
Sarah, that's not all that John Harbaugh addressed post-game, and he certainly had a few other things to say about the challenges that went into this week, given some of the outside noise. You've already referenced multiple articles written, hit pieces, if you will, one by the Baltimore Sun, one by the Baltimore Banner, but we know what went national. The toys went national. And I'm sure it was a major hassle throughout this week trying to keep everything intact in-house. If you're John Harbaugh, here he is responding to both the Baltimore Sun's reporting and the Baltimore Banners as well in what became a very, very loud week.
I appreciate it. Like, it really wasn't, it was challenging because we just, you don't win, you haven't won games. And you want to win games, and we understand we're fighting. I was proud of the guys when we didn't win the games. Our guys fought like crazy against the Texans, the guys that were out there. And they fought like crazy against the Rams, and we turned the ball over. We didn't make the plays we needed to make, get the stops we needed to make. But they're fighting and they're competing. So it wasn't hard in the sense of all the outside noise. That wasn't relevant at all. I mean, anything that was said that's anonymously is like, it's just noise. It's not even a real statement. It's not a real quote. If there's no name to it, it doesn't exist the way we look at it. And you talk about the game stuff was like a month ago. Nobody cared about that. And like I said, which the people that wrote it already know. They already know what came from the leadership players, but they haven't reported that yet. But that's where it came from. It came from the leadership players. It was a player's decision to do that. So that was nothing. I was kind of proud of it. When I heard about it like 2 weeks after it happened, I was like, good, great, cool. I haven't been in the locker room. I don't spend time in the locker room. So that's all nothing. That's nothing. What matters is a team that sticks together and fights. Even when the division, when the outside tries to divide you, that's okay. You got to stick together and you got to be a family. We're going to have our hands full on Thursday night against the Miami Dolphins down in Miami. And that's what we're going to be thinking about. Not going to be worried about some silly story that gets written, by unserious type of a report. We're not going to worry about that. We're going to worry about taking care of our business as best we can and sticking together. You guys agree with that? That's what we're going to contend with. All right, thanks a lot.
I'm laughing because for those that
the reporters are probably sitting right in front of him as he's saying it.
I just want to give context. You and I have sat in those chairs. There's 3,600 concurrents at the moment. I don't know how many of you have sat at a John Harbaugh postgame press conference. The people that he's referring to as unserious and silly from a journalistic standpoint are sitting right in front of him. Yeah. He's looking at them in the eye, Sarah.
He's saying it to Jeff. He's saying it to Jeff, who did not give those reports with them. Like, so his eyes are over to Jeff on his right. And I don't know where the other guys were sitting, but maybe they were sitting in the middle or whatever. So he's maintaining eye contact with Jeff, but the people who wrote it are for sure 2 or 3 rows, maybe 4 rows away from him.
I did cut off Jeff's question. To your point, he was the one that asked the question. So, I mean, that's.
Well, and to be clear, just because I like to be super clear, he called it an unserious report. He didn't call them unserious reporters.
Okay.
Just to be fair.
Okay.
Because sometimes, like, that's why they say sometimes you hate the sin, you love the sinner type thing. I'm not saying they sinned. I'm just saying the analogy of like you reject the action, but you still appreciate the person.
Sure. Sure.
But I will say this. Listen, from the outside, of course, we're looking at those reports. It's current anonymous players. And whatever, regardless of what they say, you have players that are currently on your team giving anonymous interviews, kind of criticizing your own team. And from the outside, of course, that's something to look at. But from his point of view, he's right. From the player's point of view and inside, it's like, it's noise. We're sticking together and we're fighting. That's what matters. And so it's like, they don't have time to spend on who said that, who could have said it. You know what I mean? It's just like, listen, if it's anonymous. And I think what he was doing was proving a point. He's like, this is why you can't he's saying you can't put too much stock in these reports because he's saying they knew it came from the players. They knew it, but they didn't report it. And he said they still haven't yet. So he's basically saying if that part was vague or wrong, is other stuff vague or wrong? And those reports kind of left themselves open for that criticism because they definitely led everyone to believe they didn't say it was the coaches. They never came out and said that. But that was everybody's outrightly said the veteran players did it. And either they didn't know, which would have been a good follow-up question of how they got removed, or they knew and they made it vague on purpose. It's one of those two things. And so what he was trying to do is say, hey, if this part was wrong, then why should we give any stock into anonymous quotes? He's like, it's noise to us. We're moving forward. We're not divided. That's the way you should respond from inside the team. Outside, how do you not put stock into it?
And there you have it. Short week. Miami Dolphins loom. None of this should and can matter, to your point, to anybody, including him, who's trying to keep this thing afloat on a short week. And maybe, just maybe, he'll end up being hopeful for all the right reasons, Sarah, and they'll get their QB1 back for the first time since that second half in Kansas City several weeks ago. And
he does go from going 4-12 without Lamar since 2018 to 5-12. So it's big for him. Obviously, there's many people saying that Lamar has saved his job, and there's probably a lot of substance to that. But, I'm sure for him, it's a big relief. And that's why you could feel as he's talking, he's getting so much off of his chest. And this is nowhere near the end. Like if they come out and lose on Thursday, then all this negativity is coming right back. But for 5 days, he's like, we just did it. We pulled together as a team, despite all of this noise, despite all the accusations, despite all the losses that we've had, despite not having my franchise quarterback, we were able to pull it together and win. And so that's why I think you can see him getting some stuff off his chest, feeling like, yeah, we did it. But now we got to continue.
Yeah, well, and they're going to get a team that hung 34 points today on Atlanta and won. So that's the Miami Dolphins. They desperately needed a win. The Ravens desperately needed a win. They both got what they needed. And now, 2 and 5 teams, I believe, will square off coming up on Thursday at Hard Rock Stadium down in South Florida.
More super chats? Yeah,
yep,
then defense.
You already know it.
Yeah, we're on the same page.
You already know. Let's see. We left off with...
Glasses are coming back on.
Okay, sounds good. My gosh, we've got over 50 plus. So let's make sure we figure out where we left off with. Greg, Darren, Douglas, Sally, Kieran. That brings us to Lunchbox. And Lunchbox writes, great team win today. Did you notice they listed Emery as a guard?
Yeah, you did that one. That one you did.
We mentioned that earlier. You're right. God King says, happy birthday, Minx the Cutie. And that brings us to Kane Prods, who's celebrating 4 months of channel membership, sir.
Kane Prod says, this might be a bit of a hot take, but I don't think it's crazy to say that Nate Wiggins is the best player on the team outside of Lamar. Ooh.
Well,
I mean, listen, he had that interception, which was massive, but he was getting the target a little bit in the beginning. Yeah. I don't know if I could put him up there. I would still put Kyle Hamilton ahead.
Yeah.
And maybe a few others.
Yeah.
But Nate's, yeah.
Kyle's first half blitz was a thing of beauty. That slot blitz where he goes to, he went and picked somebody on the line. JJ Watt did a great job of breaking it down. He went and picked and then just immediately burst off that lineman right up the seam. Loved it. Loved that way of manufacturing pressure. There were a couple of those opportunities. I thought Zach Orr dialed up well on third down. We're gonna get to the defense in a little bit.
Yeah.
And too bad for Kane. By the way, when I think of Kane Prod, I think of Sanusi Kane because I think that's Sanusi in his profile photo. And what a bummer for Sanusi. He's on the outside looking in. He was a healthy scratch today. And Keandre Jackson got the call up, who's one of the former undrafted rookie defensive backs, who, by the way, popped on special teams. We'll get to that.
That might be why.
Yeah. Well, what do you mean? Oh, special teams. Yeah, which is too bad too, because I thought Sanusi was a hard hitting thumper on special teams too. But what are you gonna do?
Well, the defense is better since they signed Alohi Gilman.
Oh,
and then the guy who replaced him, as you said, popped today. So there's reasons behind it. Although you do feel bad for him. Dreams, who by the way tweeted at me with Sarah would say woof when he brought up the time of possession in the first quarter. I can confirm that is true. Anyway, Dreams says at this point, Jair's signing was just a favor to LJ.
Bro Flacco is celebrating 5 months of channel membership. Jair was inactive, by the way, for those who are curious. First time since week 4, I believe he was inactive. Healthy scratch. 5 months of channel membership. Bro Flacco says, seems like they did it to boost ticket sales. Nobody wants to buy tickets knowing Lamar is going to be on the sideline. Hopefully no picks lost with the cross finger emojis, cross fingers, #Vault. Dragon Ball Vault's in the house, Sarah, for us.
Says, remember when the Bears messed us up on a trade several years ago? Agreed to a trade during the draft and didn't submit the card to the league. I do remember that. Said, and burned us a couple spots. Well, payback, LOL.
One way of looking at it.
DJ Burke. Remember things.
It is funny. DJ Burke is celebrating 6 months of channel membership, and DJ writes, injury report story only affects betting, which the NFL will take very seriously, unfortunately. Oh, well. Proud of Snoop, Bear Killer, Huntley. And one note on that we probably should have mentioned in that segment. There is absolutely no evidence right now to believe, other than the timing of it, that this has anything to do, meaning the injury report snafu, with gambling. And of course, the NBA scandal, the biggest scandal in maybe in NBA history, or at least in recent memory, which was this week. There is absolutely no evidence of that. But if you're the National Football League, and that's a competitor league, you obviously, from an optics standpoint, want to make sure you do your due diligence on this so that you can, it's almost like a staying within good standing publicly, knowing that this was literally 24 hours removed from all of that went down with Chauncey Billups and Terry Rozier and Damon, I forget his last name, like that. The timing could not have been worse. Captain.
Yeah, the timing was bad. 2 straight games keeping offenses to 17 points and under. That's right.
Thanks, Captain. And thanks to all of you for being with us today. We appreciate the 3,600 plus current concurrence at the moment. If you could like the video on the way in, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, consider becoming a channel member, gift-giving membership, and saying happy birthday to Mix to Cutie, who's 55 today. Partner, defensively, as Captain just said, right, and others have noted, this is back-to-back performances that are pushing things in the right direction. Alohi Gilman, of course, continues to be a calming presence for them on the back end, which has allowed Zach Orr to open things up alignment-wise and use Kyle Hamilton more freely as that chess piece. So a good start, a good 2-week stretch, once against the Rams, now against Chicago. You're going to have to continue stacking against the Miami Dolphins. They struggled early. They bent, but they did not break. They got gashed in those first 2 defensive series in the first quarter, but they held Chicago to field goals. John Harbaugh emphasized that in his post-game press conference. And when you look back at it, honestly, those stops loom significantly large in the ultimate outcome.
Oh, the stops were massive. Absolutely massive. To hold the Chicago Bears to 2 field goals on those 2 opening drives. Let's look how many yards they got. Let me go to the possessions here. Possessions. Those first 2 drives, the Chicago Bears, first one was 13 plays, 69 yards. and only got a field goal. Their second possession, 11 plays, 56 yards, and they got held to a field goal. If the Ravens had gone down, because the Ravens punted in between with 1 3-and-out, if they had given up a touchdown on both or one of them, it would have been such a hole to dig out of. And maybe they could have done it, but nobody wants to know what that would have looked like. Nobody wants to find out that scenario if Tyler Huntley and everybody could be pulling out of that deep hole that it could have been in. So the bend but don't break mentality was big. It's just like you can never, ever, ever give up hope. And that's what I loved about those great defenses of the Ravens in the past, is even if they did actually get into the red zone, it was just like they even got more upset. They even got more angry. They even got more hard-hearted and digging their heels in. And that's what I want to see. Oh, you think you're going to score just because you're inside the red zone? Oh, watch this. And so, but you brought up Kyle Hamilton, and we've talked about the blitz package. You talked about it being a beauty coming from up the middle. And that one and the one with Marlon Humphrey forced the intentional groundings, which is as good as a sack. And then you're in a loss of downs. It's exactly what you want. It's not going to go on the stat card. Unfortunately, there's no like stat line that says forced intentional grounding. I'm sure they would have loved the sacks, but it was what the Ravens have been discussing, which was to manufacture pressure, and Zach Orr delivered that. Now, I do feel like the Bears that one time when Zach Orr brought Kyle Hamilton again more from the outside, the Bears counted it pretty well. They had, was it DeAndre Swift who kind of leaked out? He first pretended to block Kyle Hamilton, and he slowed him down just enough and then was able to slip out. And then Caleb Williams was able to hit him. And then he went for a ton of yards because there was nobody there because Kyle Hamilton had come up. And that's what you risk when you blitz a safety like that. So yeah, I felt like the Bears countered. And so the Ravens need to watch that going forward, because this is all new stuff. But once it gets out on tape, you got to know that you got to like switch it up a little bit. And you still have to hope that guys like Mike Green with that cross chop that he came up with, and then the one-handed sack around the ankle/foot of Caleb Williams. And so you still need to get more pressure from your defensive linemen, which is why we're still going to be talking about a trade, because now you've got so much great going on with the inside linebackers and behind and the cornerbacks, but teams are going to start coming on to you with these blitz packages when they know they don't have to block a defensive line. You can just go one-on-one and then give extra resources to the blitzers. And so Eric DeCosta still needs to make a move, but coming out of a bye week, and when he called them and they knew they could rattle Caleb Williams, and he just really never was able to beat it, other than that one pass to Caleb or to DeAndre Swift. Outside of that, Caleb Williams and the Bears really didn't have an answer.
And credit the Ravens defense because of it. A step in the right direction, just like it was against the Rams. You know, lost in the shuffle of a very vicious news cycle week, Sarah, was the fact that this was Roquan Smith's, return, but it wasn't returned to Chicago. Obviously, it's going up against his former team. Obviously, heavy emotions. Well, he went and channeled the Roquan of old with some physicality that we've grown accustomed to seeing from Agent Zero in the middle part of this defense. And what was also lost maybe in all of this was that this was Roquan's first game back after the hamstring that set him back several weeks. He finishes with a game-high 12 tackles, 7 of which are solo. Sarah, they held Chicago to 2 scoreless quarters, the second and the third, just 6 first-quarter points and 10 fourth-quarter points. And let's kind of reiterate those opening drives, because, again, they were bending and bending and bending. Chicago was getting whatever it wanted, and yet when it mattered the most, the Ravens stood tall, ultimately hold them to back-to-back field goals. You're getting total contributions from the guys that you needed to step up, whether that was Wiggins in a game-defining moment in the fourth quarter with that pick, whether it was Roquan establishing that physicality, whether it was Marlon Humphrey, like you said, on one of the other intentional grounding calls based on a timely blitz call there from Zach Orr, or Kyle Hamilton doing what he does best with some hard-hitting physicality. How about Jake Hummel? The next play went for a Chicago touchdown. But how about Jake Hummel laying some wood? I mean, come on now. That was big time at the goal line there. So you see it here. Game high 11 tackles. Good for Roquan. I'm sure that felt good. He didn't do his usual Roquan, kind of getting that last laugh at his post-game press conference, but this one had to have felt good.
Yeah, and he kind of downplayed it in his post-game press conference. He's like, man, I've left the Chicago Bears a couple years ago, which is true. I have a feeling if he was motivated by anything, it was probably more the fact that he's been injured and he hasn't been able to play, and he didn't play well outside of week 2. And so he wanted to come back and show that he makes an impact, and it does. It makes an impact. To have Teddy Buchanan and Trenton Simpson holding down the fort, like it's just not going to be good enough. Although they did pretty decently against the Rams, but he just took it to another level. He just took it to another level. And this is the Roquan Smith that we need to see week in and week out. They need that defensive leadership. Kyle Hamilton has picked it up. Roquan needs to be doing it. He's the all-pro also. He's supposed to be consistent week in and week out. I love that he had in week 2. I love that he had it today. He's got to bring it week in and week out. No more of these roller coasters.
Yeah. You know what I'll also mention too, under the bend, don't break category? How about the fact that you follow up a first quarter where the Bears possessed the football for 12 minutes and 41 seconds. They averaged 5.7 yards per play, and they ran 22 plays to your 3 in the first quarter. And what do you follow that up with? A scoreless second quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Like salute to Zach Orr's group, because that's resiliency right there, Sarah, because the dam could have broken there, but I think they felt good about the fact that they did hold Chicago to just 6 points in the first quarter, given those statistics, despite those statistics that I just rattled off. And that's an impressive response to what was let's be honest, that was a disastrous first quarter for the Ravens. The defense was on the football field.
Almost disastrous because they helped themselves by holding him to field goals. If they had gotten both touchdowns, then I would say disastrous. But it was, I'll say this. I was definitely nervous. I was like, shoot, that was great that they just held them to field goals, but they're going to be gassed because I was watching the offense has just gone 3 and out. So I would be a step under disastrous personally. But to your point, I think your overall point, I completely agree with, in that they could have already been like, oh, here we go again. Like all this work that we did after the bye, all this work, we've got our guys back. And yet here we are again, especially when you've read those reports, the one from the Baltimore Sun that just said it beat them down mentally. And we've been talking about how this team has just felt softer than in years past. They just haven't been as physical. They haven't been as resilient. And so I was expecting the 2025 Ravens defense of this year responding, but they didn't. They reverted back to other years of being resilient. And that's what I was so happy to see. I think that's the point you were making overall. And I completely agree with it.
Yeah. Yeah. So really, all things considered, Lohi Gilman takes a red eye on the other end of the Odafe Owe trade a couple weeks ago, starts and plays the majority of the game against the Rams. Mm-hmm. They move in the right direction defensively. They go on the bye. They get healthier. Marlon plays. He was in concussion protocol, by the way, and then re-entered back into the game. So good for him. Roquan returns. Kyle Hamilton's groin seems to be good enough to play. He's playing at a Kyle Hamilton kind of level. You've got, again, Alohi bringing this calming presence on the back end. You've got Mike Green, who, yes, has his weaknesses at this point in his very young career, but he gets on the board, Sarah, courtesy of what you said, a beautifully timed and technique chop cross to get, or excuse me, cross chop, excuse me, cross chop. And look at 45 celebrating after. It was pretty fun. That was a heck of a display of athleticism there. What he did, the ferociousness, the technique, the finishability, the all-out sprawling to get Caleb Williams down. That was pretty darn impressive. So,
and was it Kobe who said, was Kobe the super chatter that said, hey, he puts on more weight? You know, I agree. I think that Mike Green, again, he got thrown into things much quicker. He and Malachi Starks got thrown into things much quicker than we wanted them to. We thought that they'd be able to ease these guys in, but I will say this: Mike Green still needs to contain those edges.
Yeah.
And
they're going after him in the red zone too.
Yeah. So he's got to do that. But he's a rookie, and we can be patient. He's drinking from the fire hose for sure. But as he builds up that NFL body and gets more experience, he'll keep getting better.
Kind of strange there with the Marlon Humphrey 50-50 play, huh?
Strange. Oh yeah. No, that was interesting because, listen, I know Ty goes to the offense, and obviously I'm like hoping that Ravens can get the turnover. I'm obviously not hiding that bias, but in my view, it was like it rolled because remember he knocked it out, and I love it. Bring back punchline. Is it punchline Marlon Humphrey? I'm trying to peanut punch out. There we go. Yeah. But like he tried to do it on when he got concussed, actually, on that play when Swift got through. I think it was because of the play where Kyle Hamilton blitzed and then Caleb Williams was able to throw it to Swift, and then he went all the way down. Then Humphrey saved that play. They ended up scoring anyway. But when he came in, he was trying to punch that one too. He was doing it nonstop. He's gotten better though, because sometimes he'll punch and then he'll miss the tackle. Like if you're going to punch, you better still be able to get the tackle, and he was able to. But on the one where he was able to punch it, when it rolled back into them, it seemed that Marlon had it first. And then the offensive player got it, so it looked like a tie. But to me, it seemed like he got it a split second first. But in the end, I get why they made that decision. But I love this Marlon Humphrey back. Like, let's just keep dislodging the footballs when he comes in. You got to get the one punch in the tackle. You just can't sacrifice the tackle for the punch.
Wiggins almost got one too. I can't remember the specific play, but man, it's always obvious when you go for the punch, right? It's hard to miss when these defensive players go for the classic peanut punch. But those are some defensive notes. I got a lot of special teams notes. How about you?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. How can you not start with, and I'm sure Steve, his father, somewhere in our live chat right now. Congrats to Tyler Loop, 3 for 3 today. Yeah, there were a couple that made you hold your breath, including the one from 42. But Sarah, he was 3 for 3. He converts from 42, 32, and 28. So good for him. Needed all. I mean, he didn't. I guess technically, given the score, you didn't necessarily need all of them, but certainly doesn't hurt, and that changes the way that the game flow goes. So good on Tyler Loop. No issues with the dynamic kickoff, and good solid outing from the rookie that they brought in from Arizona this past offseason. Other special teams notes, Sarah. Jay Higgins forced a fumble. It was not recovered by the Ravens, but you already know his father, Roy, was jacked up on Twitter. I mean, Roy was fired up. So good to see Jay popping in special teams. I thought Keandre Jackson, Sarah, the practice squad game day activation call-up, a defensive back, I thought he showed some flashes in his special teams rep. At one point, he outran his man down the sideline and tackled Devin Duvernay, who had a couple. By the way, Devin Duvernay looked good, as he always does, as a return specialist. So good on Keandre. Had at least a couple special teams tackles today and a big hit on Chicago's returner, Josh Blackwell. What else do I have here? Let's see.
Yeah, you just keep rolling with this.
I always try. To make sure to it's always hard within the pace of a game to make sure that you note take on special teams, but it is important. And I feel like these guys deserve their due. Ravens definitely got lucky, Sarah, on that illegal formation call. That negated a 58-yard punt. That was on the Bears, and it would have pinned Tyler Huntley and the Ravens deep in their own territory. So that was certainly one of those areas that I felt like, you could say, man, if you're on a Chicago podcast post-game, you're probably talking about that play. You're probably talking about the OPI that wasn't on DeAndre Hopkins, which was a huge third down conversion. But hey, that's how it goes sometimes. And the Ravens,
we've been on the other end of that plenty of times where the Ravens either shoot themselves in the foot or they get the wrong call with the referees. We have been there, it feels like, for 5 weeks, 6 weeks.
Certainly. Yeah. So any other special teams, and feel free to chime in live chat if you guys have notes that maybe you felt like should have been included in there. But that's, for the most part, that's mine. It was good to see Devin. Looked like everybody was excited to see Devin Duvernay, Sarah, former All-Pro special teamer in Baltimore, return specialist. And he broke free for at least one big one there on the Ravens for What did he have here? 49. He had one long of 49. So Devin Duvernay still in this league, still a starting return specialist, if you will, but not enough to lift the Bears over the Ravens today.
Yeah, I think just to comment on two things that you said, Tyler Loop I still like hold my breath because those kicks seem to hook. Yeah. And I'm like, oof. And it might be one of the reasons why the Ravens went ahead and took that delay of game when I think he could have kicked would have been like between 50 and 55 out. It's like, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that right now. Not when like the game is on the line. And then, yeah, Jordan Stout celebrating. He was so happy with Tylan Wallace. Those are the two big ones that stood out to me. So we could probably do one more round of super chats. We can go around the AFC North.
Yeah. And I'm glad you just mentioned Stout again, because we kind of had that in our game defining moment, or at least what I referred to as that earlier on. So just in case you guys are just tuning in, we gave you can rewind if you'd like after the show. We gave an in-depth breakdown of just how crucial it was for John Harbaugh to punt the ball away, trust his defense, Jordan Stout to pin it, Tylan Wallace to be there. And then obviously Nate Wiggins' instincts doing the rest, along with Monken, Snoop, and Kohler cashing in. So we kind of went through that in detail earlier on. And we only have one, I think, to kind of get us fully up to speed. And that's Douglas H. Brown Sr., who says, happy birthday to Minx to Cutie. Bobby is right. You do not look close to 55. Agreed.
We're all on the same page there.
Okay.
That's something we can finally agree on this show.
Femi is so funny, man. He is in the live chat. He's in the live chat all show long. We love the freaking guy. He wants to pick apart every single thing I'm talking about tonight. Every aspect of it. Look at him. He said, definitely not a disastrous first quarter. Well, what do you want to call it then? Problematic? It was far from perfect. I know that. Where to? AFC North.
Man. Yeah, AFC North. Oh, jeez.
So
I've got a taste of what your and Femi's conversations are like since I've been added to the text thread.
He's already texting us right now. Let's see if he said anything. Sometimes he texts us as he's live, so he's going like incrementally. But,
and I'm sure he knows that we're like tweeting and putting it together stuff.
Yeah, let's see. He said, exactly what I expected. I hope you give your boy props tomorrow. I said Ravens win with or without LJ. Bengals implode, and it's the perfect segue into the AFC North. So we're live right now at 6:55 Eastern, Sunday evening. Tonight's Sunday Night Football contest is between Pittsburgh and Green Bay.
That's right, baby.
What's that?
I said, that's right, baby. Sorry to break your flow.
You already know it. Aaron Rodgers, of course, going up against his former team. It's in Pittsburgh, so it's not like it's in Green Bay type thing. But as far as what's gone right so far today, Sarah, for the Ravens, Cleveland lost in convincing fashion to Drake May and the Patriots in New England. As I've already mentioned here, Miami thumped Atlanta, who the Ravens will see on Thursday night. So a much-needed win for Tua and the Dolphins, 34-10. There was no Michael Penix in that game. Kirk Cousins started at quarterback. And then, if you can believe it, the Bengals coughed up a double-digit and then some lead, Sarah, and lost to the Jets for their first win of the year. They were 0-7 coming in. Aaron Glenn was under fire. Woody Johnson, their owner, was under fire for inexplicably throwing Justin Fields under the bus. Not that he was wrong, but how do you do that to your quarterback? The Jets beat the Bengals 39-38, and the Bills thumped Carolina 40-9. So I think this is where you were going with this. Pretty darn good standing for the Ravens so far today.
Absolutely. Do you know? I don't know if you know. Clearly, we were locked into the Ravens game, and so this Jets-Bengals game was going on at the same time. Plus, then afterwards, we're like listening to pressers and getting the show ready. How did they cough it up? Do you know?
I only had
I'm
it on
sure
Red
other
Zone.
people know because they probably weren't preparing for a show in between the game and being on here. I mean, there had to have been turnovers. Yeah, turnovers probably in there.
I have no idea. It's absolutely
Can't wait to watch the
insane.
highlights.
The Jets put up 23 fourth quarter points. And so all of a sudden, for Cincinnati, you're kind of getting like deja vu to last year because this defense just could not stop a cold. And there you have it. They bent significantly in the fourth quarter. 23 fourth quarter points. Justin Fields goes 21 of 32 for 244 yards, a touchdown, a quarterback rating of 99. He didn't do much on the ground, just 11 carries for 31 yards. Breece Hall, their star running back, goes 18 carries for 133 yards, 2 touchdowns. Joe Flacco played a clean game, 21 of 34, 2 touchdowns, 223 yards, a quarterback rating of 100.5. Let's see if they had any turnovers.
No, I'm looking at it right now. I've got the possessions in front of me.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're talking about the fourth quarter. They just started getting stopped. Actually, in the third quarter, they had the Bengals. We're talking about the Bengals. They had a punt, but then they had 2 touchdowns. But in the fourth quarter, they punted and then had a turnover downs to end the game. So there weren't any turnovers. Like their possessions: field goal, touchdown, punt, touchdown, touchdown, punt, touchdown, touchdown, punt, downs. I mean, if you count turnover on downs as a turnover or whatever, but they're just going for it with a few seconds left. But the Jets had 1, 2, 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. That's crazy.
Unreal. And for them to have had the week that they did, Sarah, in the media with Aaron Glenn refusing to name a quarterback, then Tyrod Taylor's in line to start, you would think he gets hurt. So sad for him, former Raven, obviously. He probably would have had an opportunity, but then he gets hurt. Justin Fields comes back in after being called out point blank by his owner and delivers in comeback fashion. Jets get their first win of the year. Jake Asman is probably lighting New York City on fire for all the right reasons tonight. And there you have it. Pittsburgh and Green Bay tonight, Sunday Night Football. We're going to have a chance to watch it. Looking forward to that one. And this is exactly what the Ravens needed. I think that's really the long story short. This is exactly what the Ravens needed today. And now they're going to need more help moving forward.
So we talked about this in our predictions that the AFC North could be pushed into chaos this week if this is how it went down. If the Ravens got a win, if the Browns lost, and the Browns lost big time too, if the Bengals lose. And so now the Ravens are out of the bottom spot in the AFC North. Woohoo. Like this is the first step, right? So then the Bengals, now they're only a game behind the Bengals. And if they can win Thursday against Miami, that obviously will send things even further. And boy, oh boy, if I had a cheese hat, I would put it on tonight. Like I'm just going to become a Packers fan tonight to see if the Steelers could go to 4-3, barely above 500. It'd be massive.
Drop to 4-3.
I'll have that game on.
To be clear. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to be clear, drop to 4-3.
Yeah. What did I say?
I know what you meant.
I don't know what I said.
And by the way, real-time games too. Real-time, like finishing up here. Denver's going to improve to 6-2. They're thumping the Cowboys right now in the fourth quarter.
37-17.
Correct. Oh my God. Indianapolis this year. Now, granted, look, Tennessee's in disarray, but the Colts have proven with Daniel Jones, Sarah, and an unbelievable rushing attack with Jonathan Taylor and the structure of that organization that they're going to be a tough out in the AFC. They're going to improve to 7-1. When this score holds 38-7 over Tennessee at the moment. Again, Miami had to have it. They're 2-6. I know I said 2-5 earlier. Let me correct myself. They're 2-6. They've played one more game than the Ravens have. Cleveland, like you mentioned, drops to 2-6. Buffalo's 5-2 over the Panthers. Big win, 40-9. And I think that's for the most part what matters. Houston beat the San Francisco 49ers. Texans are 3-4. Chargers won on Thursday night. Sarah, we talked about that on Friday. And the Chiefs play the Commanders on Monday Night Football. So that's where things are.
So both Miami and the Ravens are going to be coming off of get-right games. And neither one of them beat, amazing teams. Miami beat Atlanta. So we're going to do this again this week. Will Lamar Jackson play? Will he play? Yeah, but we're going to enjoy this win. We're going to enjoy the win while we can because they've been far and few between.
Eric Hill says, go Jets. Minx 5 fine. # my uncle is happy. Jets. Yes, the Jets. I can only imagine what Jake's content is like tonight in Jets land. 0-7, now 1-7. So there you have it. Sunday Night Football coming up. Almost 2 hours of content.
Did you want feedback on the show and why you were accused of gloating?
Sure.
Okay. Because I think it might fit the definition of it. When you opened your show after all this news came out about Lamar Jackson, that he was actually out, you opened the show and you had a silent pause. And then you said, I told you so. Do you see how that could come across as gloating when people find out that that Lamar Jackson actually is still too injured to come back? And you didn't say anything else. There was a slight pause and you said, I told you so. Don't you
Sure.
think that meets the definition of gloating?
Uh,
Yeah, we've all done it.
I mean,
We've all done it.
I think I could see why someone on the other end of the broadcast would feel that way.
Yeah.
I hope I did a good job in the aftermath of saying this is one of the reasons why I preached cautiousness throughout the week.
Mhm.
Preached, given the uncertainty, why I was preaching that all week long, and why I think maybe I took that stance off the top was that you, me, and Femi during our segment, we had a good spirited debate, and you guys were after me hard in terms of feeling encouraged, which I did on Friday. I started to feel encouraged based on the full participation listing that we learned of midstream.
Mhm.
But I wasn't like ready to be like, okay, they're playing. Now, we did give our predictions, and my prediction was based on the assumption that he would play. And so towards the end of the week, I started to feel that optimism, but I wasn't willing to fully go there.
And I
so
guess that's the thing is like, even if you had come, let's say you were 100% right and you started off your show that way, like in part, you kind of weren't right? Because you changed you changed your stance 3 times last week. In the beginning of the week, you for sure were preaching caution. But I remember in the beginning of the week, I said, spoiler alert, I'm going to pick the Ravens. Like, I'm just letting you know I'm picking the Ravens. And then you said, I'm not sure Lamar's going to go, which you said that, but you said, even if he does go, I don't know if I'm going to pick the Ravens. So you didn't come out with a prediction, but you did say that you didn't know which way you were going to go. By Friday, there was enough evidence, even though we found out about the evidence later, that it wasn't fully true. It wasn't what we all thought it was. Okay. And so you went from being on the fence, preaching caution on Lamar, but there appeared to be enough evidence where you went limited, then full. But even before we knew that it was full, you said you woke up that morning and you were going to pick the Ravens because you believed Lamar was going to play. And so you can't say I told you so when by the end of the week, you picked the Ravens based off of the thought that you thought Lamar was going to play. And then so nobody told anybody about what was going to happen with the injury report. Like, so then you were gloating and it's like, well, who predicted that the Ravens weren't totally forthright on what actually happened at practice? Nobody predicted that. Like even Vegas thought Lamar was going to play. So there was plenty of evidence to believe that Lamar was going to play, which is why by Friday you thought he was. And so did Vegas. And so then once you found out Lamar was out, then you changed it again. You said, okay, now I'm predicting the Ravens to lose. And so you kind of took 3 different positions like, I'm not quite there. Then you're like, okay, yes. Even before the injury news came out on Friday afternoon, you were like, I decided this morning I'm going to take the Ravens because I think Lamar's going to win. Or I think Lamar's going to play. And then an unprecedented event happened with the injury report. And then you change your mind again. So it's tough to come in and say, I told you so when you kind of were moving around all week. Does that?
Well, but first of all, at the beginning of the week, though, who's predicting it to begin with at the beginning of the week?
Nobody is. That's why you can't say I told you so, because we're in an unprecedented time.
Well, no. At the beginning of the week, nobody's touching it, which is why I'm preaching cautiousness.
Sure.
Right? So then fair. The week starts to play out the way that it did. Practice reports start to trickle in. He shows up 20 minutes late, jogs on the field Wednesday. You and Femi are losing your mind. Everybody's losing their minds about how he's jogging onto the field. And I'm sitting here like, okay, this is good. This is great. But like, we don't know how his mobility is. We don't know if he's going to go. He's limited Wednesday. Then Thursday, yet again, limited. Friday, John Harbaugh says he was a full participant. And so now I'm like, gosh, okay, well, a full participant certainly
But you made your prediction. You told us that you made it that morning before John said that. You were already bought in. Because I asked you, because we all thought you were backpedaling when you said, I think the Ravens are going to win after you said they're cooked. And you said, no, I made that decision this morning. So take John Harbaugh out of it. You had already made your decision that morning.
I went back to clarify and I said, hey, you know what? When I said this, I meant it then and I mean it now. that I felt like the hole that they dug themselves prior to this week, and that they still find themselves in, they're digging out of now, was insurmountable. And so with that said, I wasn't going to predict an 0-11 end to the season.
Right.
And so, yes, on Friday morning, I said, I think they're going to find a way. So where's the discrepancy right now?
Because it all pinpoints on like Lamar. You were preaching caution on Lamar, but by Friday morning, you believed Lamar was going to play. The next day on your show, when you found out that Lamar wasn't playing, you said on your show, there's no way I'm predicting the Ravens win now. I'm predicting a Bears win.
Yeah.
And so when you come up, the only person who today can say, I told you so, is Femi Aiyemadejo, because he said the Ravens would win with or without Lamar. So for you to come on when you've been, from the outside, Bobby, it felt like you were all over the place. So I guess my point is first of all, you were gloating in the beginning. I think it meets the definition. But then on top of it, it felt like on the outside that you were changing your prediction throughout the week.
I changed based on Lamar's availability, which is why we wouldn't go there in the early part of the week, which is why I was preaching caution. And then when it comes to,
but when it comes to Friday, I told you so, when the evidence was showing, you said I told you so, but you switched your prediction because you thought Lamar was playing. I hear you on the caution, but by Friday morning, you said you made the decision that you thought the Ravens were going to win because Lamar was playing. I agree with you. Yes, on Friday we had a debate. You said, I said Friday morning, I think Lamar's playing. And you said, based on what? Hope? And I said, no, the evidence. And I talked about how he was looking on tape. And ultimately, I was wrong. He didn't play. I was wrong. But we
both were.
Exactly.
But when it comes to Friday, though, with the way that we structure this, when it comes to Friday, we got to give a prediction.
Yes.
It's time to give one. And so we're making an assumption, obviously, based on the evidence that we had as Lamar is a full participant. And so I decided to make my prediction based on, one, the way that I was feeling with the way that the week was trending, and then two, ultimately, with what we learned on Friday.
I agree. So how can you come on your show and say, I told you so, when by Friday morning you believed Lamar was going to play and you jumped on that bandwagon? You can't revert back to what you said earlier in the week. Based on the evidence, most people thought Lamar was playing. Almost everybody, including Vegas. So how can you say I told you so when you also believed Lamar was going to play?
I had to make a prediction based on what we knew in the then,
exactly.
what I thought was most likely to happen.
So you ultimately had the same conclusion as just about everybody else, which is that Lamar was going to play. You can't revert back to your Monday words when by Friday you said, I think he's going to play.
What we most likely thought was going to happen, I had to make a decision based on the two. All I was going off of was the full participation. Did I think that there was a chance that the alternative could happen? Yeah, I wasn't sure what the chances were, but that's why I preached it all week long.
I just don't see how you can say I told you so when you made the prediction that Lamar, in the end, you made the prediction that he was going to play based off of the evidence we were all looking at. And then you say, I told you so. The only person who can say that is Femi, in my view.
Femi's he was saying that from, I don't even know how early or late. When did you say that, Femi? I don't even remember when you said that.
It was early. Yeah.
But
it's all love. Like, I know that the chat's probably cooking you, but for my view, it's all love. Like, we've all made wrong predictions. And because whenever you predict against the Ravens, you're always going to get cooked in the chat. I hear you on that. I just wanted to give what I think is objective feedback to you. I think that's what it is. Because, that was my view of it. And I'm not trying to cook you.
I appreciate that. I know you're not. And I'm trying to look at it as thoroughly as possible as well. A lot happened last week. I still feel strongly. You feel strongly as well. The chat feels strongly. And this was one of the most unique situations that I think we've ever had covering, aside from the contract saga. So, of course, Dave has something to say. He says, Bobby, you're looking dumber by the second.
See, now I don't know about that. Love you, Dave.
Dave, I look forward to having you call in later on. This is what I love. I love this right here. I love when the chat says, whatever. We'll do that later on.
Yeah. You're going to go do your own show again. You can fight with them again.
we'll do that later on. But Yeah, I will be live within probably an hour or so.
And I will say, Bobby, when you are getting yelled at from all angles, it's kind of like with John Harbaugh, the way we just saw him like get so much off of his chest, and you like feel vindicated because you were getting a lot of, even before you made your final prediction, you were getting a lot of critique. And so I understand that, like, that makes you want to be like, look, I'm not, like, me preaching caution was a good thing. I think that's what you were trying to say, that you were preaching caution earlier in the week before you made your final prediction. And so when there's just like a wall of criticism at you, like, it's hard not to let like emotions erupt. You know what I mean? And so you are a person that, like, despite it all, despite you knowing your audience, you're not going to tell them what they want to hear. And so for that, I think that's commendable. I think that we disagree a lot, but I do commend you on the fact that you know people are going to come at you when you don't tell them what they want to hear. And that's not easy to do.
Well, I appreciate your take to it and your thoroughness of actually watching the show on Saturday. I don't know how you found time to do that. And on top of that, I'll reiterate that because of that emotional layer of this and what went into this week, again, I want to apologize to Ryan Joes. Johs is Jaws, Joes, not sure. But Ryan called in. I thought we had a good conversation. I lashed out a little bit verbally. Regret some of the things I said to him. He agrees with you about the gloating. And maybe he'll call in again. Maybe tonight he'll call in. So I look forward
But listen,
to it.
I'll also say this. I've said I told you so before, and I want to stop doing that. I think that's my next level, is just like, let the analysis stand where it is.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's no,
All good.
I've said it before too. So I don't know that I opened a show that way, but I've definitely said it before too.
It's all good. And a lot of that, again, in no way was that an element of it, the way that I opened up the show aimed at you and Femi. A small little element. This is about a lot of the noise in the chat, clearly. I think you both know
Yes,
that.
I think that, yes. And
so,
sometimes it all gets conflated for sure.
Oh, boy. Audio note coming. Oh, here we go.
Coming?
Fem, if it goes unanswered, I'm about to go let Tilly out, get a bite to eat, and then start another 90 minutes of shows, just in case you're wondering why it might go unanswered tonight.
Maybe Femi will call into your personal channel.
I'll probably get around to it tomorrow. Okay. Anyway,
It's
Sunday
all
Night
love,
Football.
partner.
Enjoy it. Everybody enjoy their victory Sunday. It's going to be a victory Monday. Enjoy your Sunday. Partner, you enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening. Appreciate you guys as always. Thanks to Manta Sleep for the continued support of our program. You can use code VAULT10. That's VAULT10. You'll get 10% off your next purchase at mantasleep.com. You can find all that in the show notes. We want to say thank you to our audio-only audience. We want to say thank you to our super chat donors. We want to say thank you to our live audience, over 4,100 concurrents at the moment. And partner, appreciate you. We'll be back for a overreaction or just straight up, maybe joyous reaction Monday in well under 24 hours from right now in our usual time slot. That's Monday, 12 noon Eastern. For Sarah Ellison, I'm Bobby Trossett signing off from this post-game instant reaction edition. I'll catch up with you on my personal channel within the next hour or so. And as always, Voltrons, we appreciate you, and we'll catch up with you on Monday.